In this edition of Jeff Talks, we're going to delve into a very important topic, chord construction, or how to build chords from scratch. All right? This is a pretty dense subject, so as you follow along, feel free to rewind any section where you want to review what was just said. The wonders of technology allow you to do this, okay? So we're just going to jump right in here and get you going on learning how to build chords, putting that information up here so you don't have to reference a book. Sound good? All right, let's go. All right, take a look at the diagram right there. You'll see 3 vertical columns. And if you have any perception of it, you'll see that it's the major scale. We're just choosing to do so in the key of G. It could just as easily have been A or C or D flat. Doesn't matter. We're just choosing G as a reference right now. So the major scale over 2 octaves in the key of G is G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, first octave G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, second octave G. Okay? In the next column, you'll see numbers. Well, each note of the major scale has a numerical equivalent identity as well. So the G is also 1. It's the root, remember. The A is 2. The B is 3. The C is 4. The D is 5. The E is 6. The F sharp is 7. And then you're up to the G again, which is 8 or 1 slash root also. It's still a root tone, even though it's at 8. We call it 8 so that we can find the next A as 9, the B as 10, the C as 11, the D as 5, because there is no 12 except to find the E as 13, and the F sharp is 7 because there's no 14, and the final second octave G is 1 again, or the root. All right? Just accept this as the rule of thumb, the way it is, okay? For now, anyway. Then the third column has a bunch of explanations, all right? You'll see the G, the 1 slash root, is the key tone or the root tone of the scale, and as it applies the chord. The 2 is also a 9, C below, and then you see it goes on from there. Now, when you get to the second octave G, it's still a root, and then you see the second octave A, it says 9, but then in the explanation it says also a 2, usually rendered sus2. And then you go on from there, you'll see that these notes are above the first octave as 9, 10, 11, and 13. Now, it's a general rule that when you form a chord and you play a note above the first octave root, it takes on the 9, 11, 13, even the 10 identity. This is just a general rule. It's not hard and fast, but just for simplicity's sake, okay? But it also has the identities of the 2, 4, 6, and even the 3 in certain circumstances. And this is all based on context, and we'll get into that as we move forward as well. So what you want to do right now is pause the video. If you want, you can reference the written material that we've provided and study this. Remember, it doesn't matter what key you're in. We're just using G as a reference. So for any G chord you want to build, you'd use the G major scale to build G whatever, right? G7, G13, G minor 7, flat 5, any of those chords, right? You're going to use the major scale. We'll get into all of that as we move forward. So study this diagram a little bit, and then when you're ready to continue, restart the video and we'll keep going. What I want to do now is basically a little review, but also just to reinforce what we discussed when you were looking at the previous diagram, exactly how it applies. All right, so in the diagram you're looking at right there, that's the major scale over 2 octaves. The open circles, those are the root tones, and we're in G, just because that's what we were referencing before. So if we play through the scale, you have the following notes: G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. The numerical identity now, the number identity: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 5, but 12 to find a 13, 7 because there is no 14, back to the 1, or the root. All right, this is just to give you clarity. So now what you can do is you can rewind this and bring out the written material and the diagram, the previous diagram, and look at it and reference it as you listen to me go through these two things again in the replay, okay? And then after you've studied that a little bit, gotten it clear what I just did right here, go ahead and restart the video if you paused and just kind of thought about it for a few minutes, and we will keep going. What you're looking at here is the first chord plotter in your written material on the right, and on the left is a portion of the chord dictionary, the 40 chords of the chord dictionary. Now you'll notice in the upper left-hand corner there is the major, and you see its numbers spelling is 1, 3, 5. Because the major chord is comprised of 1s, 3s, and 5s. So here's another 1, here's another 3, here's another 5, and here's a 1. Okay, so you got them all over the place. Now, if we look at this, 1, 3, 5, well, you got a 3 and a 5 on the same string, so one of those has got to go. So depending on what version or voicing of the chords you want, that's going to dictate how you operate. Well, we kind of lined it out here. Let's move to 3. Well, where's another 3? Well, right here. 10 is also 3. That's what all that slash is about. Okay, so you have a 1, a 3, you got the 5 down here that we talked about earlier. Well, you got another 1 here, and you got another 5 right here, and a third 1. Now, if you trace this like this, that is a full bar chord. Let me show you. Now, you look at the diagram, you'll see very clearly what we're talking about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Right? So 1, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1. That's all that's making up this full bar G major chord. Again, 1 because that's the root, 5, another root here, 3, 5, 1. So we just have 1s, 3s, and 5s. That's it. And that's how you make up a major chord, full bar major chord, rooted on the 6th string. Okay? And that's why it works, because all it is G's, B's, and D's. Remember, we have G, B, and D, right? G, D, G, B, D, G. That's all that makes up the major chord. The G is the 1, the B is the 3, the D is the 5. So wherever the 5 is, D and D, that's the 5, because that's a 5 and that's a 5. Wherever the B is, that's the 3. The B is the 3, and the G is the 1. Okay? So we're not playing that B, we're just playing that B. Only one occurrence. And there you go. That is your G major chord. Okay, now let's look at a minor chord, the second chord up there in the upper left-hand corner of the dictionary. Minor is spelled 1 flat 3 5. So you're going to take the 3 and flatten it. Well, let's take that full bar chord that we just played, and you look at the 3. Now you flatten the 3. What does flattening a note mean? Well, it means simply you drop it on the guitar 1 fret, a half step. All right? So 3, flat 3. Now I purposely left flats and sharps off of this diagram to keep it clean and simple, because it's easy to understand a flat 3. This is a natural 3. A flat 3 is just 1 fret lower. Just like here you got the 3, flatten it, that's a flat 3. And because you played the pentatonic minor scale, here's your 1, there's your flat 3 right there of the pentatonic minor scale. That's the minor designator of the scale, right? So, but we're going to stick with the full bar chord here, and we're going to flatten the 3 and continue that. Let me show you. Okay, so now the minor chord, as we've been talking, is 1 flat 3 5. Okay, so what you've got is G, B flat, because we're taking the 3 and flattening it, right? And D. So the only note that changes is the B. Here's your 3, right? So we're going to flatten that, and that's a B flat. So you have 1, 5, 1, flat 3, 5, 1. So your first finger's covering the first, third, second, and first string, and your third finger's at 5 on the 5th string, and your fourth finger's at 5 on the 4th string, and that gives us the minor chord. Again, just 1s, flat 3s, and 5s. This is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, but we're going to flatten the 3 for 5, 6, 7, 1. And that's how you get your minor chord. Now, if you need to lay your second finger on top of your first finger to get that flat 3 to sound, then do that, right? And again, if you need to rewind at any time during any of these explanations, by all means, do so, all right? So there is your minor chord, rooted on the 6th string. In this case, it's in G as well. Okay, let's move to the dominant 7 chord. Now the dominant 7 chord, if you go down there a little ways, it's spelled 1, 3, 5, flat 7. Okay. Now we know if we have a major chord, we'll go back to our full bar major, right? Well, here we have a 7. So if we want a dominant chord, we take this major chord, get rid of this root, and move that 7 1 fret back. And there's your flat 7. Just like we flatten the 3, we flatten the 7. And now you've got 1, 5, flat 7, 3, 5, 1. All you're using is 1s, 3s, 5s, and 1 flat 7. You got 2 5s, 2 1s, and 1 3, and 1 flat 7. And that's all you need. Let me show you. All right, the dominant 7 chord, as we've been discussing, is 1, 3, 5, flat 7. Now remember, we took the G major, we got rid of this, and flattened the 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to flatten that now. And by removing this, we expose that. Now we have G, B, D, and now F, as opposed to F sharp, because the 7 is F sharp. If we flatten it, it's now F. So you have G, B, D, F, F. But we're not playing that B, we're playing that B over here, this 3-tone, right? And we still have 2 1s, 2 5s, a 3, and 1 flat 7. Okay? And make sure you get that sounding. Okay, so 1, 5, flat 7, 3, 5, 1. So your first finger is playing the 1, the flat 7, the 5, and the 1, right? So there it is, rooted on the 6th string, your 7th chord here in the key of G. All right? All right, let's look at the minor 7. Just back up 1 chord on the left diagram there. You have a minor 7, which is a 1, flat 3, 5. That's the minor chord. And then we're adding the flat 7 to it. Okay. Well, we know from playing the minor chord that we flattened the 3. And we know from the dominant chord we flattened the 7. So we know where those notes are. So what we can do is, because we already have a 5 here, we can get rid of the 5 here. And so you have the 1, the flat 7, flat 3, 5, and a 1. All right? Let me show you what that's all about. Okay, now, here's the minor 7 chord. Now, the only difference here is we're playing it in A. Now, remember, the scale, we said it was arbitrary. G or A, doesn't matter. You're using the major scale to find the notes of your chord. So I'm going to do this deliberately to kind of help you understand a little bit more exactly what we mean when we say that the major scale is how you find all chords. We're going to do it in the key of A. You're still playing the major scale. We're just playing it in A, and your numbers still are the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 1, you know, 9, 10, 11, 12, only to find 13. So 5, 13, 7, 1, right? So now, we talked about the minor chord and how you just take the 3 and flatten that. We talked about the dominant chord, how you take the 7 and flatten that. Now in the minor 7 chord, it's spelled 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. So we know we have a flat 3 and we know we have a flat 7. We have a 5 here and a 5 here. And as we talked about in the description, we're getting rid of that 5. All right, and I'll explain why in just a moment. So we're also going to change our fingering a little bit. Instead of trying to play it like this, well, we're getting rid of that. You can't just play like that because you got that string. So what we're going to do is change up our fingering. We're going to use a 3rd finger across the first 4 strings, and then we're going to use our 2nd finger over here on the root, on the 6th string. There's a minor 7, right there. Now remember, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we're flattening that. 1, 2, 3, we're flattening the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, right? So we have a 1, 5, flat 3, flat 7, dead string, root 1. Now, why did we remove that when we could have just as easily played it this way with your 3rd finger on this root right here, or excuse me, on this 5 tone here, right? Hear that? It's pretty dense. Now, if we remove this, it's a little cleaner sounding. and we have that 5 there. So it's a little more focused versus this. Right? A lot of emphasis on that instead of the mellifluous elements of the minor 7. And that's why we do that. It's for a clarity thing. Jazz players often will leave notes out. You don't have to play all 6 strings, right? So that's how that works. And this is the minor 7. Okay? So, all right. Okay? All of these are 6-string rooted chords. I could keep going, but you get the idea here, right? Okay, I'm going to do one more for you. We're going to do the major 6. Now that's over on the right column, about halfway down. You'll see major 6, spelled 1, 3, 5, 6, and in parentheses also dominant 6. This is a chord that whether it's a major or a dominant, it's spelled the same. The voicing is what dictates how it's going to sound. All right, so let's look at the 6th tone here. We know where our 1 is, we know where our 3 is, we know where our 5s are, and now we want a 6. Well, you got a 6 way over here, and you've also got a 6 here. So you look at what is going to be the easiest way to fret this. Well, if you fret your dominant 7 and add this, well, you're no longer playing a 7, you're playing a 13, because if you're sounding that flat 7 chord, this note becomes a 13 because of the presence of the flat 7. That makes it a dominant 13. Now, if we get rid of this 7 by just lifting the finger a little so it's dead, then this takes on the role of a 6. But there's another way to play it as well. We got the 1, we got a 3, we got a 5. Let's add this 6 and just play these 4 notes. Let me show you both ways to play the dominant 6 rooted on the 6th string. All right, so now the major 6, as we laid out, we're going to use this one, over this one, but I want to go over this one, first one. Remember we talked about this, where you play the 7 chord and add your little finger here on the 5th fret of the 2nd string. Now, with that flat 7 being played, this 6 becomes a 13. As we said, when you run above the root, with some exceptions, where this is the 3 and not the 10, because the nature of the chord 1, 3, 5, 6, but we have a flat 7, so that 6 becomes a 13. Just general rule you have to accept. So when we play this, right, it takes on a little different flavor. Now, if we just slightly arch this to kill the 4th string, now you have a 6 chord, because you have 1, 3, 5, 6. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? Whoops, get the right fingering. Yes, and this is the chord the Beatles used. Okay? All right. Anyway, so that's 1, 6. When you leave the 4th string dead. Now, the other one where we're going to include this 6 and the diagram you're seeing right now, basically you finger it like this. I know, this is crazy, right? But we have the 3 here and the 5 here and the 1 there, and we're going to add that 6 there. And that is another way to play a major 6. This is technically a major 6, but it also could be considered a dominant 6, because it doesn't exactly sound happy major, I mean, in that sense. But it is a happy major 6 in another sense. This one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Okay? And then you have the 3 and the 5 as we've shown before. So, just those 4 notes, kill the high E, kill the 5th string. And this gives you a major 6 rooted on the 6th string. So whether you're playing this one with your fingers slightly arched and not playing that, or you're playing the jazzier version here, they're both major 6s, all right? And they're both rooted on the 6th string, okay? There you go. All right, so there you go. This is the essence of how you play chords rooted on the 6th string. If you need to rewind and go through anything, by all means, go for it. Make it happen, okay? And this way, you will be sure of what you're doing and clearly understand how to use these diagrams. It's really straightforward once you get it. Remember, you're just using the major scale shape to find the notes that you need to play the chords. You see the diagram on the left of the dictionary. You have the name of the chord, and then you have its spelling, okay? So it's laid out just a little bit differently than a normal dictionary. Here, you don't have to know how it's spelled to find out where to find how it's spelled. In the dictionary, you kind of have to have an idea how a word is spelled to find it. You know, it starts with D for demented, right? So let's say D-E-M or D-I-M. So you would go with one of those two ways of looking at it to see what it is. Here, you're looking for a minor 7. So, oh, there it is right there, 1 flat 3, 5 flat 7. So you know the name of the chord. Now you just have to look at the spelling. That's the cool thing here. All right? So go over this, pause the video, get this stuff down. See if you can figure out some other chords rooted on the 6th string using the diagram. You've got it written down in your material. So go ahead and take a shot at it. And then when you're ready to continue, restart the video and we'll wrap things up for this lesson. All right, there you go. This is part 1 of how to build chords from scratch. We've been dealing with 6-string rooted chords in this lesson. So you'll use chord plotter number 1. Now on the back 2 pages of your written material are a bunch of chords. You'll see they're broken up into 3 groups: chord plotter number 1 chords, chord plotter number 2 chords, chord plotter number 3 chords. So play with chord plotter number 1 chords. You're shown the diagrams and what they are: minor 7, major 6, diminished 7, or whatever. Because it doesn't matter where you play them, they're all rooted in the major scale. Your key tone, the root note, is called out by an open circle. So it doesn't matter what fret you start on, that's where you start the major scale pattern from to help you know where those notes fall, what the intervals are that you're playing, where they sit in the major scale, whether it's natural tones or flatted tones, okay? Take your time with it, have fun with this. And if there are chords not on the plotter list that you know, see if you can figure those out by using the chord plotter number 1, rooted on the 6th string, 4 6-string rooted chords, and see what you get, see what you got. So you understand some of the chords you're playing better, how they're put together. Because when you know how they're put together, you can put them together anywhere on the fretboard, starting on any string with a root, okay? And we'll get into that a little more later as well, all right? That'll do for this lesson, and more to follow. So, all right, we'll see you then. Hey, thanks for watching. If you press the little red button down there in the corner, you'll be subscribed to Outsmart Your Guitar. If you then hit the notification bell, you'll be informed when we upload new material, which is usually around once a week. Below the video in the description, you will see a link that will take you to where you can download a PDF of the lesson material that accompanies this video. All lessons contain a link to give you access to the written material for that lesson. Below that, you will see a link to Patreon Outsmart Your Guitar, where I have a lot of material that isn't included here. So you may want to check that out. There's 2 levels of subscription. I'd really appreciate if you would become a patron by subscribing at one of the 2 levels and help support my efforts to continue to provide high quality lesson material for you to help you learn, play, and grow to become the guitar player you desire to be. All right. Thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate it. And hey, we'll see you soon.